and welcome back to my channel. My name is Miss Bellissimo and today's video is story time. So what is story time? Story time is a read-along exercise where you're able to hear a story while you are reading it. So the idea is that you can practice your pronunciation, how the words are spoken. So while I read, you read along with me. And that way you can practice on how words are spoken. You can also listen to the story and answer questions at the end of the story. Do you understand what the story was talking about? So you can use this as a comprehension exercise as well. Without further ado, let's get into this video. But first, vocabulary. I've chosen 10 words from this story where the pictures or the story doesn't explain the word for you. So these definitions come from the Merriam-Webster's online dictionary, and they'll kind of give you a little bit more help when you're understanding or listening to the story. So let's start with these. First is an accident. This is a noun. It means an accidental injury, right? You fall down and you hurt yourself. You didn't mean to, but you did. An accident. Next one is mischief, an action that annoys or irritates. Think of a little kind of devil demon creature. So a mischief is when you're getting up to no good. Think of when a child steals a cookie from the cookie jar and steals another cookie and steals another cookie and now there's no cookies left. They're getting up to mischief. They're getting up to no good. A currant, another noun, it's a kind of berry. Right here, there's a picture of a currant. Parsley, another noun, an herb used for flavoring cooking. Picture is right here. Cabbage, another kind of food, a noun, kind of getting an idea of what's going to be going on in the story. But there you go, there's a cabbage. To implore, to call upon or to pray for. It means to ask, and to ask in a way that you really want it. So not simply, can you pass me the salt? It's, please, 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 can I please have the salt? I really need the salt, right? You're really begging for it. You really want it. You're imploring. To tremble, another verb, to shake without any control, usually from fright, right? So you're scared, right? Trembling. Puzzled, to be puzzled. Don't confuse this with the noun, a puzzle, but to be puzzled is to be confused about something. I don't know how to solve this math problem. That's to be puzzled. A hoe is a gardening tool. It's pictured right here, something that we use in the garden. Chamomile, noun. Usually you use it to make a tea, so right there, made from this kind of flower, and then people will dry the flowers out and drink it. So today's story is a story of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. This is a free book. It is in the public domain. I've used the ebook through Project Gutenberg, and I will add the link down below for you so you can follow along while I read, but it will also be on the screen. So let's get into this. The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. There's the sandbank right there. There's the big fir tree. Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief. Don't get into trouble. I'm going out. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. Those are blackberries right there. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. radishes right there. There's some lettuce back there, and the green beans are all back there. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? There's a cucumber frame right there. Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop! Thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten his way back to the gate. To be dreadfully frightened, you're very scared. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages, and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net. That's the gooseberry net right there. And got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new, very new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard. They were heard by some friendly sparrows. Sparrows are right there. By some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, right there, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in, if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently Peter sneezed. Kerchoo! This is just meant as a sound for a sneeze. It's not an actual word, and that's not how you would say that someone sneezed. Kerchoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time, very quickly, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright. He had not the least idea which way to go. He didn't know how to get home. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going limpity-lippity. Lippity-lippity is not a word, it's just meant to show that he's bouncing. Not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Think of the tail of a cat. Moves, twitches. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow. He's right there, sitting on one, and peered over. He looked over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. He was using the hoe, so he's using this in an action. So you can hoe something, or you can have a hoe. So he's hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. So there's Mr. McGregor. He's holding the hoe, and there's the gate right there. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. He went right underneath the gate. He slipped under it. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and shoes for a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. A scarecrow is a kind of figure that farmers will use in order to scare off animals so that animals think a human is there. Peter never stopped running or looking behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was his second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. A fortnight is also a game, but it's 2 weeks. So you have 1 week, 2 fortnights, 1 month. So you'll have 4 weeks in a month, 2 fortnights in a month, 1 month. Kind of give you an idea. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. So take this time right now, go back through, try to say the story out loud with me and try to see how your pronunciation is. There are some comprehension questions coming up, and we'll see how you do. You can always answer in the comment section below, and I'll take a look at them. So here are your comprehension questions. Why did Mrs. Rabbit tell Peter not to go to Mr. McGregor's garden? How did Peter lose his blue jacket? What happened to Peter's blue jacket at the end of the story? So put your comments, your answers in the comment section. Try to use some of those vocabulary terms or some of the words from the story in your answer, and I'll take a look at those. As always, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you have any comments or suggestions on future content, put it in the comment section below. If you'd like to hear a story, as long as it's in the public domain, I'm happy to read it. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. New videos will be coming out on a regular basis, and hopefully they'll help you with your English. All right, take care. Bye.